Hey, how's it going, everyone? Justin again, as always. Thanks for watching my channel and welcome back. Today's topic is why I became an automotive mechanic. Funny story. So when I got back from my second deployment from Iraq, I actually was trying to think about what it was that I wanted to do for a living and what it was I wanted to make of myself. And there was a couple of things that came to mind. One of them was to try to become a commercialized pilot. I found out really quick that was a very expensive path to go. So since I didn't have the affordability and the GI Bill wasn't going to cover it, I decided to try to go to a community college and learn something there. Originally, I wanted to go to like some kind of film study school, but they didn't have that at the local community college for where we lived in Albany, Oregon. So instead, I ended up going to Lynn Benton Community College. And what got me into automotive was when I got back from Iraq from the second deployment. I had a Chevy, like a 97 Chevy pickup truck, and it had the 454. That thing had nothing but problems from the very get-go when I got it. Granted, I picked it up from family. You know, I think I paid like $500 for it from my brother who was selling it. And he hooked it up on that price. I mean, for that price, I would have bought it again for sure, especially now knowing what I know about mechanicking and cars and whatnot. But at that time, I really had no idea what I was doing. So there was a few things. I kind of stumbled through some of the diagnostic stuff. I didn't have all these special testers. For the tools that I did have, I was very limited on. I think I went to Sears a couple of times, picked up a basic 3/8 socket set, you know, that come in the small cases, and then I picked up a 1/4-inch extension set. I really only bought what I needed at the time, and it was kind of a guesswork at that, because I think on this late 90s Chevy pickup truck that I had, it was like half was metric and half was SAE, and I was finding out the hard way when I was rounding fasteners and things off. One repair that I remember when I first started, I think one of the first repairs I did was I was changing out the alternator, and I didn't know about belt tensioners or anything like that. So I actually took the alternator off, and the tensioner kind of flopped and the belt went, and then it took me like a good hour to try to figure out how to put it back the way that it was. So you know, using a breaker bar, adapters, things like that, trying to get this thing. I didn't even know what it was. I had a friend come over. He looked at it, thought he knew a little about something. He couldn't figure it out. So I ended up calling my mom's boyfriend, who was a GM master mechanic. And he had just gotten retired out because he got a back injury at work and ended up working for an independent shop. He kind of walked me through it on the phone, and we ended up figuring it out. But just thinking back on the types of repairs that I did with this pickup truck was really like my stepping stone into the automotive world. Another thing we did was we replaced the fuel pump, and we didn't have a jack or anything like that. So between me and this other guy that I had that was a friend at the time, we actually had stuck our knees up and put them against the gas tank, and together we both just kind of lowered the gas tank down and shimmied it out to change it out. So learning things the hard way, man. And I was kind of getting annoyed by it. I had taken the truck in. I think one of the first things that led to me doing my own DIY repair work was that we had taken it in to the Chevy dealership to have a transmission fluid and filter service performed on it. Now, at this time, I didn't know how hard it would be. I didn't want to mess anything up. I didn't know anything about cars, and I had no ambition to really work on them. So when we took it in, it turned out that I got the wrong filter and gasket from, I think it was like AutoZone at the time, and that they had to special order it, and it was going to be a little bit more, and I was like, whatever, just get it done. So $300 later, I get this transmission fluid and filter service performed, and I was just bent. I was so kinds of mad. I was like, you know what? I think they're going to see if they have an automotive program at Lynn Benton. So I went there. They actually did have a program for automotive technology. I went in, talked to the instructor a little bit, said I had to have some gen eds in order to actually get into the program, and at which time I had already taken some online classes when I was on active duty. So I was a shoe-in. So I ended up getting right into the automotive program, didn't have to worry about anything. The only thing I had to worry about was like the basic starter toolkit. The college gave you a list of tools that you had to have if you were going to start this program. And I was concerned because I didn't have those tools and I didn't know what to do. So I was really excited about it. I think the most exciting tool purchase that I had was the very first major tool purchase that I had done, and that was buying this red, I'll never forget, it's a red Craftsman flip lid toolbox, and then it had like 3 drawers, and it was all filled up with like 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch sockets, some Allens, and then I bought a hammer and put the 16-ounce ball peen in there. And I really didn't have like a massive amount of money, didn't know about service cards or even the big toolboxes, didn't think I was going to need anything like that. I was just kind of hoping to work out of this little small carry-on box and then build my tool list from there. I met a couple of guys there that were really cool. I got along great with one of them right out the get-go. He pulled me into the American Muscle realm. We started doing a lot of work on his dirt track car that he had, and he would race over at Willamette Speedway, and I would go over to his house, or his brother's house rather, and we would work on cars every day, like after school. Every day we were in it, we were working on cars, taking something off, putting something on. So I learned a lot really quick of how to take things off and put them back together, organization, tools, special tools that were required to do the job. And he actually took me to Harbor Freight. That was the first time I'd ever gone to Harbor Freight. There's a lot of things there. I think I started off with the red service cart that everyone loves and enjoys. They mention it all the time when they're doing their service cart reviews and things like that that are out there. And overall, it was a perfect box until I outgrew it. And I had outgrown it rather quickly. I think within the first 6 months of community college, I had already built up this, pretty good tool list between Harbor Freight and Sears because I worked there, so I got a discount, and I just kept on, and next thing you know, it filled up, and we ended up going to Costco and buying a Torn, which was even bigger. And so I think for me, the biggest excitement about the whole thing at the time was I was working on American Muscle cars, I was working on dirt track cars, I was loving it. I didn't think that there was anything else out there that I really wanted to do, just work on cars all the time. So long story, short story, ended up getting my 2-year certificate. Spent 2 years over at Sears Auto Center. Had great experience there. Learned about flushes, learned about alignments, learned about how to do brake jobs and things like that. We did some small repairs, but nothing real major. It wasn't until I actually moved back down here to Southern California that I actually got involved with a dealership and started to do more and more repair work and starting to learn where the EGR valve was and where the thermostats were and how rationality tests worked and how the scan tools and everything really worked. You learned about it a little bit in community college, but nothing really beats that hands-on, and that hands-on learning is what I'm kind of getting at. So it definitely takes actually turning a wrench, plugging scan tools in, and using them on a daily basis before you actually get the entire gist of what this industry has to offer. And it's forever changing, of course. There's lots of new technology that's out there. More cars are becoming hybrids. More cars are, becoming less dependent on fuel and more dependent on battery. So it's one of those things. Now we have self-driving cars coming out and everything else. I did run into a couple of snags along the way, being down here in Southern California. I was only at the Ford dealership for about 4 months. Ended up stepping away from automotive for a little while, went back into the shade tree mechanic, so to speak, bought used cars from people, was fixing them up for myself, and I would trade in and out of cars. Found a love for Jeep, absolutely love this Jeep project that I was working on. In fact, most of my earlier videos before I deleted this channel and started all over had tons and tons of information about Jeeps because that's what I had and that's what I was working on and what I enjoyed. Ended up getting picked up by a towing company local to me and worked for them for about 8 or 9 months before I ended up transitioning from that back into automotive, and I went back to the Chrysler dealership, or went to a Chrysler dealership, I should say. Was there for almost 3 years, and what really brought me into the independent shop was that I wanted to learn more. I wanted to broaden my skill set. I thought if I can work this efficient and I can pick up this pace and do all this and in the Chrysler realm, and I knew this much about Chrysler, maybe I can learn this kind of pace and still perform these kind of jobs and just stretch that mentality, stretch that brain, just stretch the brain and learn more about other cars other than Chrysler products. Worked here at the independent shop for about 4 months. Loved it. People were great. The only things I didn't really care for was working on more than one product line. I started to kind of get The idea that there was a lot of specialty tools involved, you needed more special sockets, and it was just kind of a headache and a really scary thing when you're a mechanic and just starting out. For me, I had been doing it for on and off for about 7 years, so going into the independent shop was a real scary transition for me because of how many more tools I actually needed and I was unaware of. So it kind of scare tacticed me back to going back to the dealership. So I went back to Chrysler, and I lost something along the way. I lost that speed. They were wanting me to work more and more, faster and faster, and I just couldn't do it and be efficient at the same exact time. In fact, that's why I got let go, was because I was not efficient. I actually had mistaken an old part for a new part on a brand new car, which led to my demise at the dealership. What brought me back into being a mechanic, though, back to the independent shop, was really the people. You guys know that have been following me for a long time. I juggled back and forth of whether or not I even wanted to do this for a living. Was very discouraged. I mean, getting let go from a job and thinking about how you got let go and the mentality leading up to that can really be just an overall defeater, you know, and it really defeated me. I felt deflated. I didn't even know if I wanted to do this anymore. But it was the people that I worked with previously at the independent shop really that kind of brought me back into it. I don't know, I got up the courage. I came down here and I said, hey, are you looking for a lube tech? You know, what can I do? Worst they could say was no. But they ended up bringing me back on, and I've been here for a little over a month now, and everything seems to be going great. Primarily doing a lot of the service work between oil changes and changing out radiators, alternators, things like that, batteries and whatnot. They've been doing me that solid and keeping it very light so I can kind of get back into the swing of things and get my groove back and really get that that motion and that mentality back and just really kind of come back into it as a mechanic. If I had to do this all over again, I think that I still would, to be honest. Thinking about it now and all the things that I've been through, all the things that I've done, my love and desire for like the tools and what they do and how they enable me. I do still have a passion towards working on cars. That passion lies more on the diagnostic side, which I haven't actually got too involved with since I've left the dealership. I was starting to get involved in it a little bit at the dealership, but not to the level that I wanted. So definitely coming back to the independent shop. I'm hoping that that door opens itself again and that I learn more about how to diagnose vehicle problems rather than just fixing them mechanically. It doesn't take a complete rocket science to take something apart and put it back together, but it does take a certain special mentality to learn how to diagnose the problem right the first time. So that's all I got for this video, guys. Thanks as always for watching. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. And we are getting close to our 2,000 subscriber mark, which means we might have a giveaway coming up here pretty soon. So stay tuned, and we'll see you guys later on. Thanks for watching.